This is episode 70 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. This podcast is generously sponsored by Think Global. Think Global is a business advisory firm working with women entrepreneurs around the globe to scale their businesses to the next level. Today, I'd like to welcome Shannon Hussey. Shannon is a business development manager at Volume PR and moved to Colorado from Arizona. She studied business marketing and communications at Arizona State University and proceeded to work within sales and marketing, focusing in the IT industry. Passionate about skiing, the move to Colorado was a natural fit. In her free time, Shannon enjoys reading, hiking, and walking with her 124-pound dog. She has worked with everything from startups to Fortune 100 companies and truly enjoys acting as an extension of her clients. Shannon, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi, that was a really great welcome. Thank you.
Isn't that fun when you get to hear all of your accomplishments
it's
all
so
at once?
Funny to hear about yourself. You're like, is that me?
Or you're like, wow, I did some good things. I love that. And you're actually not the first guest who has said that. And I kind of feel the same way because I think as just really motivated sort of people and entrepreneurial minded individuals, I feel like we accomplish goals very quickly, and then there's always a new bar to reach. And so we forget to kind of enjoy the goal that we accomplished. I don't know. Do you feel that way at all?
Yeah, it's like we'll never be satisfied. We always have to keep climbing.
There's the next thing. So how did you make the shift from college into your first role within the IT space?
Yeah, so it was something that I was really passionate about. And I feel like when you're actually starting out in school, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. So if I had known now, I definitely would have went back and learned how to code, but hey, we ended up in business marketing. So I've really enjoyed it. And all I wanted basically out of a career was to provide value and have a purpose and also improve people's quality of life. So within that, I think that I was looking for a colorful career that I could highlight my skills and also learn a lot from. So I ended up in IT. I think that space is super broad. There's a lot of opportunity. And one of the things that I also want to say is that there's not a lot of women in that space. And I saw it as a great opportunity to learn from women in that space and also try and be a leader in that space as well.
Gotcha. What do you love about just sort of the day-to-day of what you do now in business development?
Oh, yes, it is so fun. And I think that it's not fair to say it's a day-to-day because every day is something different. So trying to keep my head on with all of it, but it's a lot of fun. I think you have to stay organized. And my favorite thing about it is building connections and those relationships with people because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all trying to succeed. And I think that having other people as a support system or a connection or just networking in general is really important to professional development.
Right. Speaking of, with the tech industry, with there being fewer, from a statistic standpoint, there's just fewer women in that field. I know in what you're doing now, you're very involved in the women business entrepreneurial space. I know Volume PR is certified as a women-owned business. I'd love to hear more about the vision for that and what draws you into that element.
Yeah, I think it's great because especially in this day and age, it's never been more relevant. And so there's great opportunities, especially with these large companies for supplier diversity where they do need vendors and they do need agencies to come help and support them. So that's a great opportunity for women-owned businesses to get in and utilize that supplier diversity spend that these companies have to use. And with that, I think that being a woman, I have felt in my experience that sometimes it's intimidating or you feel you have something to prove. But throughout my experience, I've learned that you have to go in, you're equal as everyone and give it your best shot. And I think that the biggest part about that is realizing that you're equal to everybody.
Isn't that hard? Like I feel like that's one of those easier said than done things. Like it seems so easy. Like I'm equal, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any mantras, or do you walking into a meeting, do you sort of walk in and remind yourself of that? Like repeat?
Well, I think is preparation, because a funny story with a previous client of mine is I walked into his office and right off the bat, he said to me, well, what do you know about this? I'm sure you don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. And so I had felt intimidated at first, but my first response was to say, oh, no, I actually know all about this. This is what you're looking for. This is what you need. I can tell you all of the components of this technology, but that was because I did my preparation beforehand and my research. So I think that maybe we have to spend that extra time, but once you master your craft, the intimidation lowers.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. How do you recover from tougher days, assuming you have tougher days?
Yeah, I think everyone does, right? Aren't there more of those than there are good? No, I'm kidding. But I think that honestly, it comes down to just having a positive attitude, because the sun is going to rise tomorrow, and that's something that is inevitable. So I think that every day you have to start with a fresh outlook and give it your best no matter what happens. And really, I think that, you know, criticism and feedback is really important to professional development as well. And so learning how to handle that and implementing that into your life is really beneficial, whether it's a failure or a win, because in my experience, there's been more losses than there has been wins, but that's just part of sales, and you're going to get that yes.
Yeah. That now, one thing I know about you, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, but I know that you're a millennial. And what I think is very interesting, and I think you're amazing in so many ways. And I think it's really interesting because millennials, and I'm a millennial too, and I feel like we get a bad rap as far as people call us egotistical. People tell us that we're not hard workers. And I think the piece of information and that advice you just shared, that yes, there are a lot of no's, but you know, yeses come along, and the piece of working hard and preparing yourself for meetings, I think those are things that people don't think of that millennials actually do.
Right. Well, and it's funny too, because to go both ways, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who are millennials, and it's really hard for them to take that criticism or that feedback. So they just jump, they run away from that job when you have to face it. And I think that that's something that maybe the generations above us have been able to handle. But because we have so much opportunity out there, it's easy to run away from things and not have to confront them. And I think that overall, we want to be seen for our skill sets, but it's almost like we can't be over gratified. We can't, you know?
I love that. So where do you get your information? Like, so you said you enjoy reading. What kind of books do you like to read?
Yes. So I am funny in that arena, because I'll read 5 leadership books, 5 books on marketing, and then I'll have to go for like I can't even, like a love romance book that just sucks in my heart because I need it for a minute just to release. It's like my vice. So I'll go from anything. I mean, 2 of my favorite books are going to be Extreme Ownership by Jocko Williams. And it's really powerful, and it's all about leadership and ownership. And he's somebody that spent, I believe, 3 tours overseas in Afghanistan. Oh, wow. And so he's seen a lot, and it's really inspirational, even though he's probably the most intimidating person to ever see.
Sure.
And another one is Start With Why by Simon Sinek, which may seem, you know, pretty generic, but overall, it really has a good message, and it teaches you a lot about marketing.
Yeah, those are great. Thanks for sharing those. What would you say is a rookie mistake that you made, and just any insight or advice that you learned from that mistake happening?
Yes, I think that one of the things I'm working on is listening and trying not to interrupt, and that stems from being an East Coaster and being from Boston so quickly that sometimes my thoughts get ahead of me. So with that, I think that my biggest mistakes have been not preparing and not planning and not actually listening to the clients and what their needs are. But that is a really strong lesson to learn from. So I think that those kinds of mistakes really, really stick with you, because you feel like you've let yourself down and you've missed that opportunity. So I think that really thinking about those things and changing them for the future is really impactful.
I think that's awesome. As we wrap up, what is one piece of, no, let's not wrap up. I have 2 questions that I think I'd really love to hear from you. One is, what's one piece of advice you'd give a younger version of yourself?
Ooh, that's a little difficult. I would say, to not let the little things break you. I think that when you first are starting out in your career, you let so many things consume you, and you can be insecure and you can be intimidated and you want to do your best. But I would say that it's just give it your best shot, be the best leader that you can, and inspire as much action as you can, and always hold integrity, because I think that that's so important. And know that you don't have to stay in something that you don't want to be in. And it's not saying like jump away to something else, but I think that happiness is a really, really important thing. And don't sweat the little things.
Yeah, that's really, I think, speaking of generations, I do think there are some generations that really felt like they had to stick out certain things, whether it was a job that they didn't like just to get to, a 30-year mark or something like that. And I think for our generation, we don't see that as much. I think we do try to find the things that are fulfilling for us. So I love that.
And to add to that too, I think that in our generation, social media plays a huge, huge factor in our egos or insecurities or even confidence too. So when I think about it, I know a lot of people who have been in a job and maybe they don't like it, and they're so intimidated or feeling insecure about having to change their LinkedIn and looking like they can't stay at a job. And on, social media, people can see like other stories or photo posts of people loving their job. And so you kind of feel like you have to live up to those standards because you're seeing things in the way that other people are living, when obviously we're only showcasing the great things. I'm not showcasing me with the flu in bed,
But you could if you wanted.
Right? But you can. Maybe I'll start that one.
Right? It'll make us all feel better. Like,
I know, and that's
rough days too.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So as we wrap up, my last question for you is about industry trends. Like, as an industry expert, what's on your radar right now that you think we all might be talking about in another year or two?
Yeah, I think it's really just going into the future and power of integrated marketing. I think that we're seeing a lot of, it's less of a specialty and sticking to one thing, but it needs to be everything, because when we're going out and selling, it's hard to explain, oh, well, we don't know how to do that. Oh, well, and now it has to become a part of, well, we can do that and we can support you in those things. And I think that social is one of the biggest things. And moving forward, I think that VR is going to play a huge part, because even if it's something like a proposal, which this is so crazy to think about, but actually having your clients be able to do VR and see a proposal and see things play out, I think that that's eventually going to be happening.
That's really cool. I love that perspective. Shannon, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Katrina.
You're welcome.